Australian workers are accustomed to working more hours than they're rostered on, but overtime is often coerced and unpaid, or comes without days in lieu being offered. It's a hidden burden for employees, with many wishing they could respond to the requests made of them like this.
Your phone last week or any of my emails. Correct, I was not working. Well, what if it was an emergency? Then you should have called 911. What if no one else could take care of it? Well, then the company has done a poor job at cross-training. What if it only would have taken you 10 minutes to do? Then the company would owe me another vacation day since I would have been working. Any more questions? Not at this time. Cool, toodaloo then.
So a bit of humour for what is a serious issue for a lot of people. Chris Wright is an Associate Professor at the University of Sydney Business School, and he joins me now. Chris, welcome to the program.
Hi, Jeremy.
I feel a lot of people are going to be watching this on their lunch break, eating lunch at their desks and wondering if you might offer a few tips. Now tell us, how much overtime are people actually doing?
There was a Centre for Future Work report a few years ago which found that employees are working on average 280 hours unpaid overtime per year. And compared to other high-income countries, the proportion of Australian workers working very long hours, defined as more than 50 hours per week, is higher than most other high-income countries. So overtime is a big challenge in Australia particularly.
Why is this happening?
Well, I think there are two reasons. The first is that overtime in many jobs, in many industries, has kind of been a part of, established part of work. And by this, I mean paid overtime. So in manufacturing, in some of the emergency services, for example, in other lines of work, it's quite common for people to work more than their standard working hours and to be paid for it. But the other reason why we've seen an increase in overtime is because many workers are feeling essentially pressured by their employers that they have to, and this is often on an unpaid basis.
Employers, including the Business Council of Australia, which lobbies for them, say that there is a huge administrative burden and a cost burden to making sure that workers receive all their rights at a cost of being able to grow a business. How reasonable an argument do you think that is?
It's not a very reasonable argument at all. I mean, the law is clear. It's not that complicated on this issue. Job design, making sure that employees can do the job within their allocated hours, is a practice that's become increasingly rare in Australia. If we look at the countries where working hours are regulated in a much more fair way and balanced way, like the Scandinavian countries, other European countries like France, job design is really part of that. Employers, businesses have to manage a whole range of complexities associated with their businesses. Working hours isn't really one of them. But I mean, the rise of technology and smartphones in particular has allowed employers to create, in some cases, unreasonable expectations about when employees are expected to work. And we need buffers against that so that people can be able to have their time at work when they're productive and focused, but then also be able to have time away from work where they can recharge their batteries and do other things that they need to do, including care responsibilities.
Is there a generational... Sorry to interrupt. Is there a generational factor in how different age groups respond to these pressures? Because Gen Z is often credited with being quite clear about their boundaries and pushing back where they need to. Do we have something to learn from Gen Z workers?
I think we do. Gen Z workers, have often, for many of them, never known a workplace which isn't always connected to technology. Where the boundaries between work and life are much more blurry than in the past. Employers, business groups need to recognise that if they want employees who are productive, who are committed to their jobs, who want to stay in their jobs longer term to ensure that to reduce the pressures of things like staff shortages, which often happens when people leave their jobs, then people have a very reasonable expectation to be able to leave the office, leave the workplace, when their standard working hours, when their standard work day is finished.
Associate Professor Chris Wright's been terrific having a chat. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy. Anytime.